Andrew Hreha here for WCTV's Election Night Special. I'm here with Mr. Larry Yost, the Republican candidate for the 50th District of Pennsylvania. Mr. Yost, thank you very much for joining us for our Election Night Special.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
No problem. So let's get right into it. What made you decide to run, and what are some of the main issues that you've been running on in this campaign?
It's a pretty interesting story. I was asked to run, and initially, whenever I was asked, it was a Christmas party. Someone asked me if I would come to a Christmas party, and I said sure, and I showed up, and some very nice people from the party came to me and said, we think that you would be a good candidate for state representative. At the time, I was kind of feeling a little ambushed, but I will tell you, I didn't answer that night, and I didn't finish my meal. So I took some time before I answered. I was called just about every day. And when I did come around to it, it was for the reason to serve. And I think whenever I was considering this, what I thought of was how our founding fathers did this whenever they were asked to serve. It was a lot of people who came from different avenues and different places. Either they were military, they'd been politics in their whole life, lawyers, doctors, farmers. Everybody was accepted at the time because they knew that they needed these people to build our country. So I thought, hey, maybe I am in a place. I'm currently a business owner. I also live and work on a farm. I've done that my whole life. And I thought this is an opportunity to serve. So I decided to say yes. And I accepted it, knowing that going into this, that it was to address the issues that are currently facing our district and our state right now. Now to your second questions about why I'm going in, what we are facing or what we need to fix in our area, I let the people decide. I initially had to get signatures on a ballot, on a petition to get onto the ballot. Whenever I did that, I took the opportunity to ask people, every person that signed my petition, what was most important to them at the end of their driveway. And what I came back to find was that we are in dire need of tax reform. Because what we have is, we have an aging community. We have a bunch of seniors that live here, and it's great. They have contributed their whole lives to our area. But what I find is that whenever they hit retirement, that their fixed income was fixed and their taxes still went up. So they would hit a point in their life where they may lose a spouse or hit a major medical issue, and they would lose their home. They would either have to sell it, they'd either have to move in with family, or they'd have to abandon it completely because they couldn't stay up with the egregious amount of taxes that our state has put on them.
All right, so this race for this position has been very close the past few elections.
Sure.
What are you doing as the Republican candidate what are you trying to do differently to try and sort of put the Republican Party over the edge in this district?
We're trying to change the status quo. We're seeing that lifetime politicians are lifetime politicians. They don't get a lot done because they don't quite understand how the free market works in a big way. So we're seeing that a lot of money is spent on internet and never done, but it's campaigned on year after year after year. We are not getting better internet, but they're getting the accolades of more money to be wasted without any accountability. So what I'm offering is accountability, and accountability from a business person's perspective. I know for a fact if I ran my business and said for 8 years that I was going to get you something that I never ever delivered on, that I wouldn't be in business anymore. Yeah. And guess what? I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. I wouldn't be able to, pay my rent. I wouldn't be able to do the things that every other person in this world that works knows that they have to do. They have to be accountable to these things. And for some reason, we're not accountable, that our current representation is not accountable to the things that they've promised and never delivered on. And that goes across when you look at our region as an area versus the regions around us. I mean, Greene County, I always use it as an example because it's a perfect example. We have 79 running through here. We're cornered on both sides, one in Morgantown, West Virginia, and another in Washington, Pennsylvania, two areas that are growing exponentially over the last 20 years. Well, we sit at 5 exits between those two with no growth, no business, no opportunities. No one wants to move here because they can't, they don't have the opportunities that these other areas afford them. And why we haven't had that, I have no idea. But I mean, you cannot allow this area to stagnate any longer. This is truly a course correction. And what's necessary in getting the people who currently live here and enjoy where they live to grow, to give them more opportunity, and to bring more people in here to allow our area to afford the same things that we've seen in Morgantown, West Virginia, and Washington, PA. It's amazing what we're seeing in those areas. But we have opioid crisis. It's now a methamphetamine crisis. Our internet is so far behind that we're not even close in some areas, and some areas have never had it in our region. That our businesses cannot sustain because we don't have enough people here to sustain them. These things have to change, or like a lot of other places throughout the state of Pennsylvania, they die. When a steel mill goes or a coal mine goes, their representation lets it die. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I love that we've been an energy sector for so long. I appreciate and want to continue with coal and gas and oil. But we need a broader portfolio of other major businesses in our area to hold up our energy sector when it slows like it has during this year, during COVID. So these are the things that I think that are necessary. These are the things that I think that I can bring that Ms. Snyder has not been able to prove herself on. That's the difference between a Republican candidate now, and we've seen the change. We've seen the change of how Fayette, Washington, and Greene have all went towards a more conservative leaning view. And I'm talking about Democrats too. Our Democrats share the same values as our Republicans in this area. They want to see the same things that the Republicans that live here and the conservatives live here in our area. But they're just not getting it from their representation, and that's why you see more and more people, especially from our area, pulling red for Trump. I hope they do the same for me.